All right, guys. I want to finish over there. We have a few points over here. First of all, turn to Perek Hey Pasuk Tez Zayin. We were talking about the Sota yesterday. Hey Tez Zayin, page 7454. So this lady gets taken up to the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, a few points we got to deal with here. Now, first of all, on 754, so it says they bring her korban. Okay, in Pasuk, it's 6 lines from the top on 754. Vehevi ha'ish es ishto el hakohen. The man brings his wife to the kohen. Vehevi es korbana aleha asiri sa'efa kemach sa'orim. She brings a offering, a barley flour. Lo yitzok aleh shemen. They don't put oil on it, what they normally do on meal offerings. Lo yiten lavonav. No frankincense. Ki minchas kinaosi minchas zikaron mezkeres avo. It is the jealousy offering. So her offering is a barley offering. Barley is fed to animals. Barley is fed to animals. Normally, our offerings are made out of wheat, which is human food. Her offering is a barley offering because she behaved like an animal. Right? Like a lowly creature. And therefore, her offering is a barley offering, number one. And number two, there's no oil. Because oil is always a sign of adorning something, making it a little fancier, a little upgraded. And therefore, her offering has not got any adornment whatsoever, and it's a barley offering, and it's in such a way that she should understand that the fact that she's even being brought is a problem. Then what does the Kohen do? In Pasuk Yud Zayin, V'hikri vosa hakohen v'amida lifnei Hashem. He puts her before Hashem. V'lokach hakohen mayim kedoshim b'kli cheres. He takes holy water in a pottery vessel. Umina ofar asher yeh bekarka mishkan, from the dirt that's in the earth of the Mishkan. Yikach hakohen, he puts dirt into the water. And the idea of putting the dirt into the water is, why would you put dirt into water? I mean, we always want water. We're always nervous. Nervous about water being clean and water being this and water being that. What do you got there? Certain places like then Milwaukee had a water crisis a few years ago. They had a water crisis. Was polluted in the water in Brooklyn is always what do you call it? They're always you drink the water and you find there are Met fans floating around in the water in New York, and the water's what do you call it? The water's polluted. Water is supposed to be clean. What's she putting the dirt in the water for? The answer is symbolically. You have a marriage. The marriage is the holiest possible union between two people, and she threw dirt on the marriage. Right? She threw the people that they threw dirt on it. It's symbolic. Come on, what did you do over here? What did you go and mess? Even if you're innocent, maybe you could open that, or what do you call it? Even if you're innocent, and even if you're really innocent, well, at the end of the day, you threw dirt on the whole thing. You don't. What do you call it? You don't go and mess up a marriage like that. So, everything she's going through is, even if she, at the end of the day, is innocent, because you're not innocent. You did wrong already. And I've had with my kids fight with each other. He did this. She said this to me, so I hit her. Right? And she said this, and so therefore I hit her. So I used to say to my kids, you're wrong, and you're wrong. You're wrong for saying it, and you're wrong for reacting. It's not like you're right and you're wrong. And sticks and stones can break my bones. No, sticks and stones. But names will never hurt me. That's what they used to say. That's not true. There's an issur d'oraisa of calling people names. It's because names hurt. Sometimes words are even worse. There's something called a noas dvarim. A noas dvarim is to torment people verbally. All right, nowadays everything's verbal abuse. Every little thing is verbal abuse. Oh, he was abusive. He's verbally abusive. Everything's verbally. In the marriage. Oh, my husband's verbally. That's not a verbal abuse, lady. That's marriage. Wait, I'll show you what verbal abuse is. What a husband and wife are never allowed to have a spat. That's part of the fun. Right? There is a line, though. There's a line in marriage. Is that window open over there? Is that window open? Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, well, maybe open it all the way. The what do you call it? The rachamim. Maybe I get that window over there. There's a line in marriage. There's one thing they have a disagreement. Another thing they get personal. if you're having a disagreement in marriage, you guys should pay me this. This is valuable advice. Stick to the issues. Stick to the issue. The issue is usually money, obviously, but stick to the issues. Don't. You're stupid or you're foolish or you're irresponsible. Don't get personal with it. Just stick to, you shouldn't have spent that money. You should have spent that money. I don't think you should have disciplined him this way. Don't start with name calling. That's already low. What are you, a baby? What is the name calling? Right? And certainly no low blows. It's like something you got into an issue, so you bring in something that, and last week you burnt supper. What's it got to do with anything? They stick to the issues. That's the nature. That's the. I think I told you, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach was one of the Gedolei Ador. So when his wife was nifter, I was at Rav Shlomo Zalman's Levi. When he was nifter, there were about 300,000 people there. They overheard a secular Israeli policeman who was very involved in crowd control, that he said to a friend of his, if I knew there would be this many people at my funeral, I would drop dead on the spot. Right? There are 300,000 people, just a sea of black. It was like nothing you've ever. So Rav Shlomo Zalman's wife predeceased him, and at her funeral, there's a custom in Judaism that the surviving spouse approaches and asks for forgiveness for anything that may have gone on in the marriage. So Rav Shlomo Zalman approached his wife's body, and he said, we were married for over 60 years, and you know as well as I do that there was never an inappropriate word exchanged between us, an unpleasant word exchanged. Therefore, I have nothing to ask forgiveness for. I'll do it because that's the custom, but you know as well as I do that I don't have to ask. He said this in front of thousands of people. Rav Shlomo Zalman didn't lie. So somebody asked one of his sons, how could it be that your parents never had, they're married over 6 years, how could it be they never had a disagreement? How could that possibly be? You know what the son said? He said, my parents had disagreements. They had dozens of disagreements, probably hundreds of disagreements. How could it be that two people from different backgrounds would not have a disagreement? Of course they had disagreement. How could they not have a disagreement? But just because they have a disagreement doesn't mean you have to turn unpleasant. I think we should go to my parents' house for Shabbos. Now I want to go to my parents' house for Shabbos. Why should you turn unpleasant? Somebody's going to have to give in. Somebody's going to have to give in. Why can't you discuss it? You're mature people. Somebody's going to have to flip a coin. Flip a coin. Both of them say, it doesn't say heads or tails. It says wife or wife, right? You flip a coin and it lands on wife. Wife decides, right? That's how. Who says you have to have it your way? And even if it is, and who says you have to get unpleasant? And even if she messed up, which happens once in a while, but we mess up also. You ever notice? I ever hear a father says father buys a kid a new suit. The kid comes home, he sat on a bus, he sat on a nail, he ripped the pants on the suit. Well, I'm not getting you new pants now. What happens to the father? Well, you never sat on a nail? Father never ripped up, never messed up. He never made a mistake. He never made a bad investment. He never did something wrong. Never messed up. Only the kid messes up. That's not unreasonable. That's unreasonable. Kid comes home, his glasses are broken. Father gets upset. What are you upset about? This way, you never broke your glasses? You never broke, that cost my father in glasses? Had I not broken glasses when I was a kid, I'd be driving a Mercedes today. Kids break glasses, and it's frustrating. Daddy, my glasses broke. How'd they break? Well, I wanted to see how far they could bend. It's not as far as I thought. Okay, it happens. All right, I didn't do that to my father. I didn't do it to my. Okay, so it happens. Accidents happen and they hurt. Okay, so why do you have to get upset? What do you have to get nasty for? So the Torah says over here, a marriage is supposed to be holy. A marriage is supposed to be something as your best friend in the world. You threw dirt on the marriage? What kind of garbage is that? Therefore, he puts that in her. He puts that in the thing. Then it says, and look how the Torah describes what the Kohen says to her. Bottom of page 754, 2 lines from the bottom. Eitan, can you stand up for 1 second? While you're up, can you turn on the air conditioning? Thank you. Thank you very much. V'hamida kohen es ha'isha lifnei Hashem. The kohen stands the woman up before Hashem. Upora es rosh ha'isha. He uncovers her hair. We see from here that a woman's hair that's uncovered is unsneous. V'nasan al kapeh es minchas hazikron minchas ha'kenosi. He puts the offering on her hands. Uviyad ha'kohen yumei hamorim ha'meorim. The kohen's holding the cursed waters. Then he says to her the following. Now look at this in Pasuk Yud Tes, 756, 2 lines from the top. V'hishbiya osa hakohen, he invokes an oath. V'amar ela isha, he says to the woman, Im lo shachav ishosach, if a man has not lain with you, v'im lo satis tumatachas ishach, if you've not gone and become defiled under your husband, hinaki mimei amorim hameorim, then you should be cleansed of these waters. You'll notice that he first starts out with the positive. First, the positive. If you're innocent, if you haven't gone off, then you'll be cleansed of these waters. And the Gemara says that if she drinks the water and she does not, and she was really innocent, then she will, if she was, there's one opinion that if she was barren, she'll have children. So that the Gemara objects, one of the Amoraim objects, that he says, well, then any barren woman will go. If that's true, any barren woman will go. She'll go seclude herself, get herself warned by her husband, and do it. So that opinion says no. It's not that if she didn't have children, she'll have children. It's that if she had difficulty in childbirth, or she had various difficulties, it'll be easier for her. But there is an opinion, if she didn't have children, she'll have children. What about a concern? That's a very real concern. So all the frum women will go and get themselves secluded and have their husbands warn them. So his response to that, according to the commentaries, would be, women aren't going to do that. As desperate as they are for children, they're not going to go and misbehave in such a way and go seclude themselves, which is not appropriate. They're not going to do that either because it's inappropriate or they're too embarrassed to do that, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, according to that opinion, this is a very deep idea. Why does it have to be that if she drinks the water, she'll have children? If she's innocent, she'll have children. Why is that? Well, what happens if she drinks the water and she's guilty? She dies. What kind of dying? The swelling up. So if she's innocent, there's going to be a swelling also. But what kind of swelling? A swelling up with children. You ever see women get pregnant? When they're pregnant, they look like a Jiffy Pop. It looks like, you ever saw Jiffy Pop? The popcorn, that's what it looks like. It just got to go, then eventually, what do you call it? It's Jiffy Pop. So you put it on the stove. And, they had that when I was a kid. I remember Jiffy Pop. You put it on, and you go, it's already in a pan, and the thing expands. It's really neat. It was more fun than eating the popcorn. It was just watching how the thing went well like that. And you think of it as a sota. But it was. So this is a woman who there will be a swelling. But at the deeper level, what that means is that when she has absorbed God's name, listen to this idea, gentlemen. God's name is bracha, is expansion. Bracha is expansion. A woman has drunk God's name, which had been erased on a parchment, the Yud Ke Vav Ke, she's drunk it. There's going to have to be an expression for God's name. If it's a negative expression, so it's going to be expansion that kills her. If it's a positive manifestation, it's going to be expansion that turns into a child. She's going to have a child. It's going to be a bracha. But there's got to be, God's name can't go in and nothing happens to it. Can't just go in and stay there. It's going to have to expand because that is what God is. God is expansion. God is bracha. God is everything that comes from God. Bracha is expansion. Remember we spoke about zachar equals the same numerical value as bracha. A male is bracha. A male is expansion. One man can basically populate the entire world. A man could cause the entire world. Theoretically, a man could marry to 1 billion women and populate the entire world. That's expansion. A woman could only have one at a time. A woman only has them one at a time. She can have twins, she can have triplets, she can have quads, whatever it is, but there's a limit. She can't have 10. I think, what's the world record? I think some lady in India had 8? 9? She had 9 that survived?
Not India, like I think some
Bangladesh, okay, whatever it wasn't France, right? It's somewhere over there, right? I understand, yeah, somewhere over there where there's some name that we can't pronounce because it's got a KHG combination in it. I understand. At the end of the day, it's where to go. There, what was it? It was 9 kids. Okay, but that's the maximum. A man could basically marry as many women as he wants and populate the entire world. So a man, bracha, nail is expansion. And therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is expansion. So if she swallows up Hashem's name into her system, one way or another, it's going to have to come out. So if it's negative, so it's going to kill her. If it's positive, it's going to go out. Okay. If you take a look at, in Pasuk, one last point on her, and then we go on to the Nazir. In Pasuk Chaf Aleph, V'hishbiya hakohen es ha'isha b'shvuas ha'olah, The Kohen invokes the oath of curse. V'omar HaKohen L'isha Yitein Hashem osach le'ola v'lishvua b'soch amech. How does the article translate it? The Hashem will render you as a curse and an oath among your people. B'seis Hashem es yerechech nofeles v'ezbitnech tzava. And your thigh falls off and your husband swells. Your stomach swells. So he says, you will be a curse among the people. Take a look at what do you call it? At Rashi. It's the right column of Rashi, about 9 lines down. If you find it, please show the person next to you. Right column of Rashi. Yitein Hashem osach le'ola. Says Rashi, sheyu akol mekalalim bech. When people curse each other, they'll curse using you. They'll say, Yevoech kederech shabala plonis. Somebody gets upset, they'll say, I hope it happens to you like it happened to what's her name, who got swelled up and died, the Sota. Right? They say her name was Leah. They say, I hope what you suffer the same fate as Leah. Right? People will curse by your name. Okay? Now, I knew a guy, he was an American guy, married to an Israeli girl, Israeli Sephardi girl, and they had a couple of neighbors downstairs with Israeli Sephardis. Now what happened, this guy was an American guy, and he wanted to close off his balcony. He wanted to put he had an open balcony, he wanted to close it up. So the downstairs neighbor came up and said, listen, if you close up the balcony, we're going to inform the city authorities. Which apparently they wanted to, get paid off and not to do it. So he got upset. And it wasn't a situation where by building it he would be blocking their view. It was just simply to either be difficult or to get some money. So he started dribbling a basketball on the floor at about 1 or 2 a.m. He was upstairs, the upstairs neighbor. So he was working on his left-handed dribble at 1 a.m., tapping with a broomstick at 4 a.m., right? So the downstairs neighbor tried tapping the ceiling with a broom. It's not the same. You got the high ground. It's not the same. And things were turning progressively unpleasant. So one day the two wives, his wife was coming home, and the downstairs neighbor wife met her in the parking lot, and she said to her, I want you to know I just came home from a funeral, and I cursed you and your entire family in front of an open grave. Yeah, that was her reaction. I don't know that cursing in front of an open grave is any worse than cursing not in front of an open grave. If you want to curse in front of dead bodies, just open the freezer. There are chickens in there. You could curse in front of the freezer. It's also dead bodies. So the wife got spooked, and then he went downstairs, was banging on the door, and eventually the police arrived. And they worked out a very amicable peace treaty, like Egypt and Israel. Somehow they worked things out, and everybody, they're at peace with each other. They don't talk to each other, but what do you call it? So when people get cursed, a curse is generally a negative thing. When people want to curse somebody, they're going to curse with this woman. Well, who cares? Why is that a threat to her? So at a basic level, we see something about a woman's nature. And if you take a look how the coin threatens her. He says, first of all, you're going to be a curse among your people when your stomach. For a man, what would a man be more intimidated by? Hey guys, people are going to curse using your name. You're also going to die a painful death. Which one bothers a man more? The death bothers a man more. Women are not like that. By a woman, it's like, what are people going to say? Right? Oy, they're going to curse you. That's very intimidating for a woman. Dying, she doesn't mind dying. But oy, what are people going to say? If a husband yells at his wife, what happens in the house? Husband yells, wife goes over and closes the windows. So the neighbors shouldn't hear. Right? The husband starts hollering, the wife closes the windows. That's how it works. Right? I was once giving a shiur to a group of women on Shabbos. I mentioned that for some reason. So some lady says, oh, not in my house. In my house, I yell. My husband closes the windows. He announces this in public. So she's very intimidated by that. But at a deeper level, a person who lives a good life and people bless him after he dies, the neshama in the world of truth benefits from it. When we say in the davening, Elokei Avraham, in the morning we say Elokei Avraham in the Shemona Esrei, Avram Avinu's neshama benefits from that. Elokei Avram means that Avram Avinu chose God. He was the one who became loyal to God. That's a praise of Avram Avinu. When someone is praised for something they did, their neshama in the world of truth benefits. And when somebody is cursed for something they did, every time we read Parshas Korach, that Korach rebelled against Moshe Rabbeinu, Korach is suffering upstairs. How do you like that? As I tell you, gentlemen, it's worth it to be good, right? The neshama. So a woman who is then mentioned as being cursed, somebody cursed says, you should be like so-and-so who died. Not only she died in this world, she's dying another death upstairs, or downstairs, as the case may be. And therefore, that's the lesson we learned from the Sota. Okay. Take a look at the next section, 758, Pasuk Vav. Okay? And here we go to the Nazir. Now, Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor, 758, 5 lines from the top. Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor. Daber el Bnei Yisrael, v'amarta aleim. Isha ki yafli lindor neder nazir lehazir laHashem. The word yafli means expresses. They express themselves to make a neder, to be a nazir. Now, a nazir is 3 qualifications or 3 requirements of a nazir. There are different types of nazir. If a person says, I will be a nazir, then a regular statement of nazir is for 30 days. That means for 30 days he must let his hair grow, not groom his hair. He must not drink wine or any wine products. And he must not come in contact with dead bodies. He's not allowed to come into contact with the dead at all. What is that? Who does that remind you of? A Kohen Gadol, right? That a Kohen Gadol is not allowed. That means that the Nazir is stepping into a higher level of existence, a higher level of dedication. The word Nazir means 2 things. It means to move away. The Zoru Achor, you're backing away from things. What else is what's a Nazir? Does anybody, what's a Nazir? Nazir, our coach, is a crown. That means it's a crowning achievement for a person. That a person is gaining self-control. Yeah?
Are they allowed to visit their family members? Let's say their mother or father passed away.
No, they're not allowed to come into contact with their bodies for the period of their being a Nazir. For the period of being a Nazir, they are not allowed to come into contact with the same limitations as a Kohen.
So it's not the whole life.
As a Kohen Gadol. No, it depends. A person can make himself a Nazir Olam. He can make himself a Nazir for good. Yeah, it depends on the vow. Not a good idea. And he can make himself a Nazir. But a standard Nazir, he can make himself a Nazir for 60 days. Okay? But those are the 3 rules. Now, what is happening here? Why would a person become a Nazir at all? Why are you trying to become a Nazir?
To better themselves.
To better themselves. I mean, the person may feel he's out of control. And I need to put the brakes on. The idea of growing the hair, it's not growing the hair, it's not grooming the hair. It means that a person feels that his ego is out of control. It's a little too pleased. I tell you, sometimes a guy looks in the mirror, so the guy looks in the mirror and says, you know, Hashem did a really good job here, right? Or a person's a little bit, person's getting a little too full of himself. So first thing is, I'm going to ignore my grooming. Take care of the grooming. Number 2, what does wine do? What is wine always the catalyst of? Always trouble. Wine is always the catalyst of. When people get in trouble, it's usually because of wine, right? Alcohol, booze of some sort. Wine. So the Torah says you can't drink wine or any wine. You can't even have a grape. Can't even have grapes. Anything from wine products. The lesson being that any area of life that a person is out of control. So anything that is related to that area, you have to cut out. Try to cut out. So the wine is off limit. I'll get to you 1 second, Ethan. And the last one is what do you call it? The last one is death. Why is he not allowed to come into contact with dead bodies? Now here, okay, so we know that the Kohen Gadol is not allowed to come in contact with it. What's really going on here? We learned all about Tumah. The answer is that in order for a person to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with joy, with simcha, a person has to, we know that there is an afterlife. We know that there's an afterlife, the neshama lives on. And we know that we have a goal in life. What happens was that the basic belief in an afterlife and in an eternity, when a person is facing a dead body, his belief is threatened. Like, you're telling me that there's an afterlife, but I'm looking at something that's completely immobile over here that was once moving around, and that could threaten a person's belief and his simcha, because now he sees it in front of him. The Nazir has to be in a state of simcha. He's got to be upbeat. And therefore, stay away from death. For this period of time, stay away from death. Okay, that's the basic idea. We're going to ask. You're going to go. Yeah, go ahead.
How does a Nazir do Kiddush on Shabbos if you can't have wine?
Oh, it's an excellent question. Excellent question. On Shabbos night, he can make Kiddush on challah. He can make Kiddush on bread. And on Shabbos day, he can be yotzei with somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay, he doesn't have to drink wine. Very, very good. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
If for whatever the reason the Nazir breaks the rule,
He has to bring an atonement. He brings a korban, he has to start again. If you become tamei at any point, so he has to start counting again. There also, the Torah discusses what happens in the Mishnayos. If you look at the Masechta Nazir, talks about somebody who became a Nazir, a woman who was a Nazir for 7 years, and on the last day of the 7 years, she became tamei. Right, she has to start again. Then she came to live in Eretz Yisrael. After the 7 years where she came to live in Eretz Yisrael, they said that that it doesn't count. Now she has to be. So she was I think it was Hilni Amalka. She had to be a Nazir for 21 years. Right? It reminds me, there was a guy in prison. This is a documented story. There's a guy who was in prison who's serving a 25-year sentence, and on the last day of his sentence, he needed the public phone. He wanted to call home, and they got into a fight with somebody right at the phone. Prisoners are never known for their manner. You know, a guy's been in prison. And he got into a fight at the public phone, and he ended up killing the guy on the last day of his 25 years. Well, then he just called home and said, well, keep supper warm. I'm going to be a while longer, so you can blow it. So Gemara says on the last year, she ended up being a Nazir for 21 years. She ended up becoming a Nazir. Now,
So she came to me, or
the first time she became tamei, and then she came to Eretz Yisrael, and then had to reset the clock, right, according to one opinion. So the Nazir, now, the question that everybody asks over here is, first of all, wine, we know, is the source of trouble. So we understand why you stay away from wine. Remember I told you the Medrash with Noach? You remember the Medrash with Noach? When Noach planted a vineyard. Noach planted the vineyard. So there's a Medrash that says he came out of the Teva. He came out of the ark after being there for a year. And the first thing he did was he planted a vineyard. The Medrash says he had a partner in the vineyard. Who was his partner? The Satan became his partner. And the Satan took a sheep, and he shechted a sheep, and he drained the blood of the sheep into the vineyard. And then I'll get you 1 second, Eitan. Then he shechted a lion, and he drained the blood of the lion into the vineyard. Then he shechted a monkey, and then he shechted a pig. And he drained their blood into the vineyard. That's what the Medrash says. So the question, obviously, Eitan, you can turn off I think everybody's cold. Thank you. So the Medrash says, what's going on? What's the Medrash trying to tell us? So the commentaries say the Medrash is, I think the Medrash itself may explain. The Medrash is explaining there are different stages of alcohol, of wine consumption. It means most things in life, almost any product, is not a good or a bad. It depends how you use it. Marijuana could be used in a proper way, and it could be used in an improper way, right? It could be used medically, right? Which is proper. It could be used for partying, which is proper. Which is improper, right? It depends. It could be used. It could be used. It could chas v'shalom. Cut. Right? It could be used, right? Even heroin. I'm sure there are probably uses for heroin that people need to be treated. For example, a guy who's being weaned off of heroin, so they have to wean him off with heroin. Right, so that's a proper use of heroin because it was improper. I'm sure they probably found that it also helps in the regrowth of hair or something like that. Heroin, hair, something they probably use in I don't know, what do you call it? Snake venom. Right, they're proper uses. So there are very few things in life that are inherently not good. Right? The only one we could think of is obviously the White Sox. Right? There is no good use for them. Right? But but other than that, there's nothing that's inherently and intrinsically bad. So the Medrash is telling you, wine is the same thing. When you take your first drink of wine, what happens? You're in a situation even like Friday night. Yeah, guys, it's been a hard week at work. Now that you're told, come home, sit with your family, relax. Well, how do you relax with your family? You got a bunch of noisy little kids. It could be grandchildren. You had a rough week. You're tough. The market is down. Whatever it is. How do you relax? Well, you make Kiddush on a cup of wine. You knock down a cup of wine. and your husband, and you haven't had that much to eat today. Oh, well, all of a sudden, Shabbos, everybody. Shalom Aleichem. All of a sudden, the world's looking a little different. And sometimes you have another drink. Then you become bold like a lion. Sometimes in life you need to be brave. I need to go in and ask the boss for a raise. I haven't got the have a couple of shots, right? Go in and talk to the boss. Now you feel better. Then you got to stay brazen because you got to go home and tell your wife that you're out of a job because the boss fired you. So then you cross a line and you drink too much. The next stage is the monkey, right? Where you're up on a table and doing all sorts of clever things that you think are clever, and it's, you dance around with a lampshade on your head, which so clever. And the last stage is the chazer, where you're lying in the gutter and immersed in bodily fluids, and you're like a pig. So he's showing Noach, that's what the Torah is saying. A Nazir, stay away from the wine. All trouble can come from wine. So the Nazir stays away from the wine, the grooming, and the dead bodies. The big question everybody asks here is, okay, guys, Eitan, did you want to ask something?
I was going to ask, why is this partner the Satan if wine is used for mitzvah?
Good question. The wine is used for mitzvah, but then again, every eating is also used for mitzvah. But a person could miseat. A person can misuse the drive for eating. A person can misuse the drive for morality, immorality. There are drives that can be used for mitzvahs. It can be there's nothing that the wine. You're right. Rava says chama v'rechane pikrin. Rava says in the Gemara the reason he became wise is because he drank properly. They once asked a 103-year-old guy from, I think, either Switzerland or Sweden, a 103-year-old guy who was still doing downhill skiing. And they said to him, to what does he attribute his long life? He said to not drinking too much. But then again, not drinking too little. That's what he said. He's 103 years old, so he was okay. So that means that it can be used properly and used inappropriately, like anything else. The question everybody asks is, okay, so you practiced abstinence for a month. So, after the month, you go right back into where you were. So what did you gain? What's not true?
You don't go back to where you were. You leveled up. Even if it's a small bit, you still leveled up.
Excellent. First of all, even a small amount of progress is worthwhile, number one. Even theoretically, if that's all you would be doing is 30 days and right back to where you were, good. So 30 days were an accomplishment. But to accept what you're saying is true. Most people, when you move up, you don't drop all the way back. You have at least tasted what the potential is out there, and therefore you have a new target to shoot for. That already pulls you up. And that's why at the end of the day, if you take a look, it's very interesting because the way the Torah puts it, that he brings his korbanos at the end, and after his korbanos, at the very last pasuk, on page 762, the Kohen, he brings various offerings. I don't have time to go into it. And then at the top line on 762, it says, Vehenifo sam ha-Kohen, tenufa lifnei Hashem. Kohen waves them. Kadosh hu la-Kohen achazei ha-tenufa al shokat truma. He's holy, based on these offerings. Ve'achar yishteh ha-Nazir yain. And after these offerings, the Nazir could drink wine. Did you see something peculiar about that statement?
Yeah.
What is it?
He went without it, and then
Now he's allowed. Now he's allowed. But look how the Torah says that. After that, the Nazir could drink wine.
After what?
After these offerings are brought. He is no longer, the offerings at the end of the 30 days are brought, and after that, the Nazir could drink wine. You don't say anything strange about that? What's the contradiction?
That he bring offerings because he drank the wine.
No, he brings the offerings, which releases him from his vow, and now he's allowed to drink wine.
Why doesn't it mention the other things he can now do?
Okay, because this is the main thing. That it's not like, oh, good, I get to come to contact with dead bodies. Most people want to get to the booze first. Bring on. It's not like, oh, good. And my hair. There's nothing. Like, I could grow my hair now. Well, I could groom my hair. Take a comb.
It says shave his hair.
But it says v'achar yishteh Nazir yain. But he's not a Nazir now. He just finished being a Nazir. And afterwards, the Nazir could drink. Not the Nazir could drink wine. The ice Nazir, like ice Shabbos, right? Then the former Nazir could drink wine, not the Nazir. That's exactly what Yisrael was saying. He's still got the vestiges of Nazir in him. The benefits of being the Nazir stay with him. Yeah, you could drink wine, But the Nazir, the effect of being the Nazir is going to leave an effect. It's going to have an effect. Small steps. Do you know that on the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that a person, the halacha says, even things you're not stringent on the rest of the year, you should be stringent on them during the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Let's say a person only drinks regular milk. Chalav Yisrael, so drink Chalav Yisrael for those 10 days. Yeah, but afterwards I'm going right back to it, the Chalav Akum. What good does it do? The answer is it does a good. You see that there's a new level that's achievable. There is something that can be achieved. And it's a reminder personally that there are other levels that I can achieve. Yeah. On those 10 days, be meticulous to not speak Lashon Hara. I mean, you're never allowed to speak Lashon Hara. You're right, but now you see that it's possible that when you're really focused that you can go 10 days without speaking Lashon Hara. So maybe it'll pull you up the rest of the year too. Yeah, we're going to ask Nate.
Why was this idea of a Nazir created when it's such a big risk to take on?
Why is it a risk?
Because you're almost putting yourself in like a situation where you might fail, and you're gonna have to bring.
Okay, that's a tough question to answer. Why is it created that a Kohen Gadol goes into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur where there's such a big risk? There are why are there
That's you're told to do that.
Okay.
You're taking on by yourself.
You're taking it. Okay, I don't have an answer for that. An answer. Yes.
I'm just wondering, why is wine specifically? Why not other alcohol? Why is grape so much?
Because wine was the most common drink. You look at the Gemara. The Gemara talks at length about wine. The Gemara talks about how they used to what do you call it? What's it called when you put the water in? Dilute the wine. Not only that, the Gemara says that Rav Yosef was upset with Rava Bar Chama, one of the Ravas. He was upset with him, and Rav Yosef was blind. So Rava came to apologize to him. He wanted to apologize. So he walked in just as the attendant was getting his wine ready. He said, "Here, let me prepare the wine for him." So he brought the wine into Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef took a sip. He said, "This tastes like the dilution of Rava." Rava diluted this wine. And apparently there was there was a whole thing about how you diluted the wine. Even different people had different ways of doing it. The Gemara talks about wine. Wine was always the main drink. Wine was always the main drink. To go without wine, I think for a guy to go 30 days without wine is in our day and age, it's like to go without coffee for 30 days. And when you're a coffee drinker, right? To go without coffee for 30 days, that's already that's how prevalent wine was. I think in Europe they were always drinking wine. In France and Germany they were always drinking wine. I have a sneaking suspicion that one of the reasons that they were doing it is because probably the water was so contaminated, like bubonic plague, so the alcohol in the wine probably killed any of the bacteria or whatever it was. Probably that's why they drank wine. But they drink wine like we drink Coke. And that's what wine was. So a person's a coffee addict, and then he can't have coffee for 30 days. It's what do you call it? True or not true? That's how prevalent the wine was. Yeah.
Rabbi, are there still people today that are?
You should not make a vow of Naziriteship. You should not make a vow of being a Nazir, because the Nazir, if you become a Nazir, there's no way to get out because you can't bring korbanos nowadays. Person should never even talk. Don't say anything that remotely possible. We once had a guy here who had long, flaming red hair, and he also abstained from wine. And there was some suffix about his status as actually a Nazir. Yeah. He came to my house once with a group of guys. They were all a bunch of like hippie type of guys. My kids were real little. They come walking into the house, and there was one guy. I had 8 guys in the shear. It looked like there were 7 guys with like hippies. One guy playing a banjo with sandals, and all that, and one guy who looked like he stepped right out of Accountants magazine as a straight. It looked like a theme for a TV show or something. And these guys come walking into my house. And my kids I came for a Hanukkah party. This is back in the day, probably 25 years ago. And my kids are looking at them. My kids are really looking at them like this. And my son was very, very, my son looks at me, he goes, with the guy with the red hair, he says, "Daddy, is he wearing a shaitel?" Go explain it.